I would recommend that if that's where your heart is, that you literally make sure of it, because there's nothing more rewarding like in the world that I've ever done. It like actually makes me emotional. You have got to go for it, because if your heart is somewhere else, you will never be useful to your patients in the hospital, and you will never be where you're meant to thrive in whatever it is that you want to do.
Today's guest is Dr. Christie Kimball, a former hospitalist who's walked away from the system to build an aesthetic and weight loss practice all from scratch. They have now scaled to over 800 patients in under a year. She offered things like Botox parties straight from a house that looks like a movie set in New Orleans, and is now leading a growing team and still finds time for Friday naps. So if you've ever thought about building your own thing, then this episode will light a fire underneath you. Welcome to Med Story, and welcome, Dr. Kimball. So let's dive right into this. To make this transformation is a really big change from hospital to now a clinic like this. Can you take me back to when you were working in the standard system and when you decided to step away from it?
Yeah, so I was burnt out for a long time, I would say. And eventually enough was enough. And it was December of 2023. So end of the year, ending my career in that. And I said, I'm going to go for it with what I always wanted to do. It took me a couple months to decide how I was going to approach the logistics of it, having a space for it and everything. But when I launched, it was so good. I would do it all over again. It was awesome.
How did you know? You were in the moment and you said you were burning out for quite a while. Like, what were you feeling and how did you know it was time to make that change?
I said, I don't care enough about this like I should anymore, because my mind is somewhere else. It just wasn't for me anymore.
And so when you were starting to brainstorm ideas, were you thinking about a few different options, or was this always your vision?
I always wanted to do aesthetics. Injectables was my first love for sure. I've been learning that since I was in med school, and lasers were another one that I picked up over the year. But the other step was to have a sustainable practice model, and I enjoy those things as well. But what I really love doing is the aesthetic stuff, and that's anyone who knows me knows that's what I've always wanted to do.
So you decide enough is enough. It's time to leave the standard model. Was your practice already up and running at that point, or was it just an idea?
So when I was a hospitalist, I had a side hustle, if you will, doing Botox parties. And I built up a little bit of a clientele, if you will, around New Orleans. And that was my injectables patients. And then I was starting into the weight loss stuff. And eventually, one day I was like, I have enough to build a clinic with this. I'm going for it. And I didn't have a vision in my mind of the practice model or anything, but I knew what it was that I wanted to do. And as a vision, like as a whole. And so it just came to fruition for that.
Were you scared to take that kind of risk?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was do or die at that point. But once I committed to it, it had to happen. It was either like go back to the thing I left or that. And so I knew I was going to make it happen.
I love listening to these stories because there's always this point where you have to make a decision and saying, you know what, I either going to stay what I'm doing or I'm going to step outside my comfort zone and take a massive risk.
Yeah.
And ultimately, often what I find it comes down to is the risk of inaction, meaning not trying, greater than the risk of staying?
Definitely. Yes. I would say in that case, for sure. Like, especially when you've given 15 years of education and training to something and like have the tools to do what you want to do. There's all sorts of stories of like how you get to something like this. And I think, so I had originally wanted to be a dermatologist and I didn't match 2 years in a row. And I later understood why. I needed all my experiences in hospital medicine and the general hospital space to build a practice like this. You know, one step leads to another and you just find the path that you were meant to find. Scared to death, but super gritty, and knew that I was going to be just fine. I didn't have loans or investors or anything. I just knew that I was going to make it happen. I could make the cash flow I needed to build it to the next step.
That's amazing. I give you so much props for that. So you got to a point where you're like, you know what? I am seeing enough patients where you could see the future of being like, if I continue to grow this thing, it's going to either equal or even succeed my current income as a hospitalist.
I actually, when I stepped away from hospital medicine, I said, and the reason I think I stayed in hospital medicine so long was I was good at it, but it was at 7 on, 7 off. So I didn't think I would find a mix that had a decent schedule, a decent educate, like where I wouldn't have to go back to fellowship. I could still do things. So I think that was one reason I stayed there so long. And then going to this space where it's every day like I choose has been amazing.
You know what I think I loved so much about when we did our pre-call is that you were like, oh, you know what? I'm just waking up from a nap.
Are definitely my nap space.
And that is the beauty. Like oftentimes you wouldn't have been able to do that if you were still being employed.
Well, oh, yeah, yeah. So I had left the hospital fully intending to be like, I will take a pay cut. I will do like whatever. I just want to be happy. I understood that I actually didn't think I would make anywhere near as much, definitely not more. But that's the magic of it. I think that's when people who are really meant to do something, they start it for passion and not for money. But now it's far more successful in my former career.
That's amazing. Okay, so
Thank
I want to
you.
talk about this transformation of your business. So it started
Mhm.
with Botox parties. Were you holding them at your place or were you going to places to run these parties?
Always to somebody else's, to like the hostess house. So it's I guess like a standard thing where you go and do them. And some of them can be sketchy. I've heard of plenty that are, but if you have a reputable physician and great products and all of that, it's still very well loved. So I still go back to those same houses. Now I have the space to host here. It's a good way for me to get volume of patients in and for them to get good prices. So it works for everybody. And I started, like I said, at their houses. Last summer, I moved to a kind of a tweener space. I was renting a little room, a hair salon for a couple months, and then finally moved here and found this place in December. It's been it's been about 6 months now.
So for the listener that doesn't know what here is, can you explain what that
Oh,
is?
my current, the Kimball Cosmetics location. It's this amazing, like old house in New Orleans. If you're from New Orleans, you understand the business inside the old house concept. But it's about 3,000 square feet of this very old, beautiful New Orleans house. It's a corner lot, and I am staying here most of the time now too. Work. I walk out my front door to from my office to the building, and vice versa.
She literally has the single best commute you could ever imagine, where it's
It's
literally right there. And if anyone's never been to New Orleans, like the architecture, it's so cool because it's a
it,
combination of like French, Spanish. I think there's some African in there too. Like it's
like
such a beautiful fusion.
the porch and the colors, and it's so homey. Everyone, the first thing they say, like when they walk in, it's like, this doesn't feel like sterile, like a clinic. This is so cool. It's so homey. Everyone loves the vibe. So, including me, I didn't realize like how much of a part of it that would be because I'm so pink, clearly. But the clinic is like that too. And I didn't realize how much I was branding it as well. Like people love it. It's so cute.
I think something that's really important to point out in your journey is that you started your side hustle. And what you did is you developed something called your MVP, your minimal viable product, being like,
Yeah.
what is the easiest way I can get started? That's the lowest risk that I can start testing out an idea. And
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
going to people's houses. You didn't have to rent out the space. Risk
Yeah.
exactly. And then from there, did you start to learn anything about your systems that you would implement that you're now using at your current space?
Yeah, I was actually using the medical record software that I still use. I did a lot of research on which one I would want for a small clinic, never realizing we would ever grow this big, frankly. But I love it. We use JNapp. I started to develop a lot of the really important stuff, like my consents, foundational things, pricing models, and loyal people, just really rewarding the people that support the business and making sure that I have people that are happy with what I do.
How much of this did you learn in medical school?
Zero. Very little except for the facial anatomy and stuff and how Botox and stuff works. But no, this is like a lot of the actual subject matter of what I do is stuff that I just loved studying, and I would learn it on my own anyway during the regular med school and residency time. And I figured I'd use it one day, not realizing in the end I actually would. But the business part of it, nothing. And I think that the system is pretty invested knowing nothing. They count on you being pretty chained to that system. So I am thrilled to no longer be part of it. I think another just little things like, okay, so I would have a cent salary at the hospital, but it would be like part of my salary would be a quarterly bonus. I always earned it, but that is a long time to wait for thousands of dollars. There were so many, like having access to cash flow, just there are so many things that you have to learn. And honestly, just you have to be really creative and you have to be super gritty and passionate about making sure that it's going to work to build something this big, this fast. But I didn't actually realize I'd ever be good at business. I actually probably thought I wouldn't be, but I think that was just what the system wanted us to think.
I love this story so much. So break down your business for me as far as because I know you have the aesthetic side and then
Yeah.
the weight loss side. We got
Yeah,
percentage wise, what is
mostly aesthetics. It started as a lot more because that at the time weight loss was really big, like a year ago, and it was a way to fund the aesthetics that I really wanted to do. But I really did grow to love the weight loss part of it because the gratitude in weight loss is unreal. I've multiple patients that have lost 50, 75, 100 pounds that will call me and cry. This guy called me and said it was the most meaningful thing to happen to him since the birth of his children. At
wow.
65. Yeah, to have a solution to that. So that part is cool. But for the most part, what I really love doing is the aesthetic stuff. And I've really fallen in love with the laser stuff too. So it's just the outcomes you can achieve without much downtime and just with really cool technology are unbelievable. But I would say I've always been an artist too. So this is an outlet for like the face is my canvas type thing. And yeah, it just feels so meant to be at this point, even though it was made it up as I went.
That is key, making it up as you go. I
Oh,
have now talked to people that are just starting their business, now running multi-million dollar businesses, and they're all making it up as they go. That's what we're
yeah.
doing in life.
Yep.
So I think acknowledging that and saying, I don't have to have it all figured out. And if I accept that and I just need to start making the next step, then it can lead to amazing things like your exact story.
Yeah, I think it's better that way. I think you learn to pivot early when it's like this, and there isn't a lot. I'm actually glad I didn't have any formal business education. Like, I've never even been to a business class like in my life. I had no formal like financial education or any of that stuff. But I think that those things, knowing my personality, would have given me like a little bit of fear or made have held me back a little bit. And this, at this point, it was like do or die. And I know I'm super creative and I work harder than anybody in the room. And I just knew I was going to make it happen. And so I think that in this case, it worked out for me. I'm not like advocating that it's like a thing people do. It just was very meant to be.
I love that.
Feels
Now,
very true. Yeah.
how do you find these patients or and how do you continue to find them?
Yeah. Like there's always an aesthetic market. Like that's not an issue. And I don't want it to seem like we're like digging people out of the gutter for Botox. It's something that is going to have aging. Everybody's going to have, hopefully not everybody, but sun damage. There's a routine component of all of this that like people want to look better, to feel better, to do better in everywhere else in their life. And that's like what my brand is built on. So it's really just about being however I can help you to be the person you want to be to thrive in every other space in your life.
I think that messaging is probably what resonates with so many people that come and see you.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
guessing it's probably a balance of referrals after they experience,
Yes.
but also
Yes.
I know that you are on social media, you have a social media manager. How does that
Yes.
play into your business strategy?
Yeah. So whenever it first started, I like last summer, I was told when I bought my laser last August that my first laser, sorry, that I would have to get under the social media scene. And that kind of intimidated me because I wasn't very techy and I learned how to do a reel, I think last August. And so all in my business, like, I mean, for at least like 6 months probably was all referral. And then like it started to get some Google people in there because I think we ended up ranking SEO pretty high, like without just by chance at the other location. Then when you move, of course, it updates. But anyway, I think a lot of that for a long time was referral. And it's still a lot of it still is. Usually once people come in, they always come back. They're like, where have you been all my life? And where has this been? And they love it. And they love like the vibes and stuff. I'm a very real doctor. I don't beat around the bush. I joke a lot. I'm going to make sure everything is flawless with the way you're cared for, but I'm definitely going to have a lot of fun with you. And what I didn't realize about social media, once we made it big on that, and that really only took off like in the earlier part of the year. I remember hitting like 5 and 10,000 followers like in 2025, I think. So that part has been super cool. I don't even know how that possibly could have happened, but and we get a lot of business from that and I'm very grateful. But the thing that's the coolest is that these people will walk into my clinic, these women, and I'm like, mostly women, sometimes men, but I'm like, everyone's so cool. These are all like my friends. And then I'm like, okay, wait, that wasn't like an accident. Like they all saw who I am first. And then, but you connect the dots and realize you attract a certain type of person. And I didn't realize how in need something like this was. The amount of people that resonate with this it's amazing. It makes me feel really good.
That's such a beautiful thing. And it's so powerful because, like you
Yeah.
said, when you're not only attracting the people that you actually want to work with,
Yes.
but then once they come in there, they already have a relationship with you because they've been watching your
Yes.
content.
Cool. Like my jokes are already funny. We don't have any weird space of me trying to like get to know anybody because I feel like you nailed it on the head. Like they already know exactly what they're getting. And it's just the coolest thing because in the hospital, I would always try to find connections with everybody, but the patient population is just different in the hospital. These all being my friends now. It's just so cool to have people that have become like people that I genuinely enjoy spending time with.
Sure.
And also are, yeah.
So you had mentioned that some of the patients were coming in through Google, meaning I'm guessing that you guys were starting to accumulate Google reviews, or how was that
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah. I think some of that's above my pay grade, but I think like your Instagram and stuff can also put you on, like all of that goes into your Google searches. So I think when people would search like Botox near me or something, they would pop up because we were well reviewed. So that was really cool too. I was like, oh, Google, that's a new one. I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, what? That's cool. Okay. How did I do that? I don't know.
I love how transparent you're being. If you were to go and look at your digital footprint right now, you would be like, wow, she's got this all figured out. But
Well, like, I've learned a lot since then, but you have to learn so quick. Like the amount I've learned in a year is probably like decades for people. Like to grow the scale like this is, I'm sure, is pretty difficult. But I mean, it's been the coolest thing in the world. I don't even have words.
I do want to, because there are other doctors and healthcare providers that are working still full time in this, and they're seeing like, what do I need to do to start building my personal brand and my side gig? And I will say that one thing that I always recommend is with those Google reviews, oftentimes your hospital system or your clinic will set up a Google account for you so that your patients can review you, which is a fantastic thing to do. However, when and if you ever decide to leave, it becomes really challenging to take that over.
So,
So
yeah.
something you want to do is you say to the clinic and hospital, you say, I'm happy to have a Google review page, but I want to operate it myself and I want to run it so that
Yeah.
if you want that freedom, you can go and then those reviews can come with you, which is really
Yeah.
important.
That would be great. Yeah. I don't know if I ever really, I don't think I had any Google reviews as a hospitalist. I'm sure I got many great other portals and stuff that would have been great to take with me. But I actually like that this was all its own thing because all of the merit is like me, but also it's in aesthetics. It's people that I was well loved as a hospitalist by my patients. Don't get me wrong. But like this is like a whole new, it just feels like it was always meant to be like this. Like I just, yeah. People are just, I'm like, how? Surely you, I don't know. Surely you're missing something. I'm not cool, but
You are cool. You're the coolest.
like it's, yeah, it's really special. So
That's awesome.
I always appreciate every review.
So what's the vision for this? Where do you want this business to be in 5 years from
Yeah,
now?
that's a great question. I think about that a lot because really it was just started as like my passion project. And now it has so much potential to go a number of different ways. I have a lot of people that are constantly asking about jobs in different settings. And am I going to have more locations? Am I going to? And so I think the answer to all of that is yes. I think the answer is once I can get to a point where I'm in and comfy with running this one, then I can start thinking about that. And it's always on the back of my mind. But I think there's a point where you can invest so much that your revenue is going to increase, but your profit is going to stay the same. And you want to get to the point where you can see your profit before you go to the next, or where you have the potential to when you go to your next location. So I think that's something where like my creative space is good at seeing the vision. And so once I feel like I can take it there, I'll start to think about that. But in my business, it would be like, okay, I only have one laser, this that could stay here type thing. So there are, it will have to get creative. And I do have plenty of ideas for how that will be. I don't really want to give too many of them away, but I do have plenty. And yes, I do think there will be plenty of other growth. I just can't exactly say what yet. I do think there will be more than one location within the next, I don't know, 5 or 10 years though.
I love that. And that's okay. You can keep that tight at the chest. You don't have to share that yet.
Yeah, I know. I apparently I have great ideas. So
The important thing is that you're building out your prototype right now. You're
yes,
fine-tuning your systems. You're making sure that this is
yes.
something that is going to be profitable when you do decide to scale it. And it seems
Yeah.
like you're even discovering or exploring ways to diversify income.
But no, I've definitely already, I thought about that since day one. I never wanted to be like the med spa that went all in on something. They always warn you about the med spa that buys the lasers and all of that. No, it's always been very intentionally spread around with different services. So that part I think we're good on, but it's more just like knowing what to choose to maximize a certain personnel, a certain location, like just depending on all those different variables you choose.
Totally. Yeah. And that comes through
Yeah.
trial and error.
Yeah.
So with that, like I mentioned, there are many other healthcare providers, physicians,
Yeah.
NPs,
Yeah.
therapists that are listening to this that are saying,
Yeah.
wow, I would love to be where she's at and having a business
Yeah.
that's growing like that. They're still working full time. Where do you
Mhm.
recommend that they start?
Yeah, so I would recommend that if that's where your heart is, that you literally make sure to do it because there is nothing more rewarding like in the world that I've ever done. Like actually makes me emotional. Like you have got to go for it because if your heart is somewhere else, you will never be useful to your patients in the hospital and you will never be where you're meant to thrive in whatever it is that you want to do. So I would say that the first step is probably knowing that you are no longer like fit. I just mean that it's not where you were meant to serve anymore. So that would be step one. And then knowing how you are going to finance this journey would be step two. So you have to get creative with maybe it's not exactly what you want to do. Maybe it's something adjacent to it, but you can incorporate that into part of it. And this is very much a hybrid of this is medical practice in the traditional sense that I learned, but it's also a business. And so you have to understand that you have to be a creative mind with how am I going to generate revenue? How am I going to build out a service menu? Those are all things like you brought up at the beginning. It would be a combination of knowing when you are done mentally and when you are ready to go all in on working for it's do or die with your other options. I think a lot of people never get to that space. It takes a lot to get there. You got to be really done.
I think the one key takeaway here is to start where you're ready.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think like having the, like, you can't just, okay, you can't just have, I guess I may have oversimplified this in saying, okay, you just make the jump. But yeah, I had a lot of experience with the Botox, like years worth of networking within the aesthetic community and like very good training over the years and experience just like with services and business model and all of that. So yeah, you do have to have, you have to know what the alternative, a taste of the alternative is. You can't just drop it all and pick up like I may have suggested, but you have to be ready to ditch it all and to go all in on the next thing. But regardless of how much experience, you just have to have some.
Amazing. So if someone's listening to this and they say, wow, I want to see what Dr. Kimball's doing, or maybe if I want to utilize her services, what's the best way
Yeah.
to reach out to you or your team?
Yeah, I would say like the way most people do is Instagram, although we do have a great new website now. So we can be reached on that. It's KimballCosmetics.com, like we've always said. But I would say most people usually DM us on the Instagram and you can see our whole like offerings menu. You can see the booking site, you can see the website, you can see personality stuff, you can see services before and after. It's like we have everything on there. If you want to look and see exactly what we do, who we are, that's probably the best taste of it. You can always reach out to me at the clinic through my email or through the phone number. So we are always happy to talk to everybody, whether it's something that you want to talk to about making the leap from your job that you hate to your dream life or from just the perspective of somebody who's interested in services or anything else. I like to chat. So
That's amazing. I appreciate you willing to come on and share your story here because I know that the listeners are going to say, wow, to watch you go through this transformation and now living this life that you've designed for yourself is really special. And it's
yeah,
just thank you for sitting down with me.
yeah, absolutely. I'm super grateful for the opportunity. Thank you for hearing about my story and hopefully somebody gets something from it.
Absolutely. So if you are a healthcare provider that is listening to this and maybe you're building your brand, you're building a business like Dr. Kimball, and you have a story to share, make sure to reach out to us, medstorymedia.com/podcast. And until then, we'll see you in the next one.